Amidst the lush mountains, the previously noisy atmosphere suddenly fell silent. All eyes turned toward the northwest, where, on the edge of the horizon, the sharp sound of wind being sliced through echoed. Several streaks of light appeared in the sky, and within moments, a few figures materialized among the mountains, which were filled with people. As the light faded, 5 figures emerged, and leading them was Mu Chen. By his side stood Luo Li, her graceful and exquisite appearance immediately attracting a great deal of attention. Everyone looked at the academy emblems on their chests and instantly understood their identities. Their eyes filled with excitement. After waiting for so long, the main characters had finally arrived. Are they from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy? The leader, is that Mu Chen? He only has the strength of a spiritual energy tribulation. With such strength, they still dared to show up? Quite bold. Don't underestimate him. Mu Chen is no ordinary person. I heard that not long ago, in the Wood Divine Temple ruins, he sent the Alliance of Academies back empty-handed. Plus, he's also a skilled spiritual array master. Oh, he's a spiritual array master too? That's interesting. It's rare to see a battle between spiritual array masters. Haha, I wonder if Mu Chen can break the array set by Xiao Huang. As Mu Chen and his group appeared in the sky, whispers began to rise around them. Eyes scanned them continually. Mu Chen hovered in midair, his gaze sweeping across the surroundings. As he looked at the hundreds of teams gathered here, he couldn't help but feel a tinge of surprise. He could sense that these teams were all quite powerful. After all, only the strongest could remain in this region, one of the most fiercely contested and brutal zones in the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition. Mu Chen's gaze suddenly froze. He stared at a mountain peak in the distance, where he saw a young man dressed in black, with delicate features resembling those of a woman. Wu Ling. Mu Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, his expression becoming serious. In the Spirit Road, there weren't many people who truly made him cautious. Besides Ji Xian and Wenqing Xian, Wu Ling was definitely one of them. Fortunately, Mu Chen didn't have any significant grudges with Wu Ling in the Spirit Road, and their relationship was relatively neutral. Wu Ling also noticed Mu Chen's gaze. A faint smile appeared on his handsome face, and he nodded toward Mu Chen, greeting him. Mu Chen nodded in return, then turned his attention back to the focal point of the area. On the peak of the mountain ahead, dazzling spiritual light spread, almost painful to the eyes. As Mu Chen looked at it, the expression on his face softened. The complex patterns within the spiritual light, while incomprehensible to others, were clearly recognized by Mu Chen as the intricate workings of a formidable array. Quite a powerful spiritual array, Luo Li murmured. Though she wasn't a spiritual array master, she could still feel the dangerous fluctuations emanating from the massive array before them. Mu Chen nodded. This should be a level 5 combined spiritual array. It also seems different from the usual combined array diagrams. The Thousand Sword Spirit Array that Mu Chen used in the Wood Divine Temple ruins to defeat Blood Tiandu and Wang Zhong was also a level 5 combined spiritual array. With it, he had destroyed 3 Wood Divine Guards and defeated Blood Tiandu and his group. This demonstrated just how powerful such arrays could be. Of course, this was within Mu Chen's expectations. After all, to trap Wenqing Xian, a normal array simply wouldn't have enough power. Heh, Mu Chen, you've finally arrived, came a light laugh as Mu Chen's gaze shifted toward the dazzling array. The spiritual light flickered, and a clearing appeared within, revealing several figures. The one speaking was the young man with long black hair. Let me guess, you must be the leader of the Alliance of Academies, Xiao Huang? Mu Chen glanced at the figures behind the young man, including Mou, and then slowly spoke. Xiao Huang smiled and nodded. I've heard of Captain Mu Chen's great name. I've been waiting here for quite some time. It's my honor, Mu Chen replied with a smile. He fixed his gaze on Xiao Huang, glanced at the crowd watching them from all directions, and then said, I wonder what it is that Captain Xiao Huang wants with me? The 3 of Mou glanced at each other, their expressions instantly turning ashen as they shot a fierce glare at Mu Chen. Hee, Captain Mu Chen must be joking. They were taught a lesson because they were outmatched, so there's no need to blame anyone, Xiao Huang said with a smile. However, There is something I need from the Wood Divine Hall ruins, which was taken by Captain Mu Chen first. I wonder if you could part with it? What is it? Mu Chen replied calmly. Naturally, it is the item you obtained in the Spirit Treasury Hall, Xiao Huang grinned. At that, Mu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly, surprise flickering deep within them. What he obtained in the Spirit Treasury Hall was the counterfeit Spirit Gathering Bowl, a rare treasure that contained numerous supreme spiritual liquids. The fact that he acquired this Spirit Gathering Bowl was known only to him, Luoli, and Wen Qingxian. So how did Xiao Huang find out? I wonder what Captain Mu Chen thinks of my proposal? Xiao Huang looked at Mu Chen, his eyes steady yet concealing a sharpness like a blade beneath the surface. Clearly, his true nature was not as mild as it appeared. Mu Chen's gaze remained fixed on Xiao Huang, noting the swirling emotions in those eyes. He did not relax due to Xiao Huang's earlier feigned politeness. After all, the fact that he could establish the alliance of academies and effectively manage MOU and the others indicated this person was not easy to deal with. Mu Chen didn't consider himself easy to handle either. Thus, facing Xiao Huang's inquiry, he merely smiled and said, "This matter will likely leave you disappointed, Xiao Huang. I think you'd better withdraw the spirit array soon. Otherwise, the one inside might actually get angry, and I doubt you could handle it." Hearing Mu Chen's words, many in the crowd couldn't help but smirk. Xiao Huang had clearly put a lot of thought into trapping Wen Qingxian, but once the spirit array was broken, Wen Qingshuan's fury would likely leave Xiao Huang in a very awkward position. "It seems you are unwilling to settle this peacefully," Xiao Huang sighed with feigned regret, yet his eyes were icy. Mu Chen shrugged and smiled, but it was evident that there was an edge to his grin. "If you won't toast, then we'll just have to knock you down and take what we want ourselves." A cool, mocking voice suddenly echoed, causing everyone to tense up. Their gazes turned toward the source, landing on a figure sitting casually beside Xiao Huang. This person had short hair and bore a slight resemblance to Xiao Huang, but his features were marked by an exceptionally sharp intensity. He had been quietly sitting next to Xiao Huang, and few had paid him much attention until he spoke. In that instant, everyone felt the biting coldness of his gaze, which made them realize that this individual was not to be taken lightly. That guy seems to be Xiao Huang's brother, Xiao King. His strength is formidable. Even a master facing the first-level divine soul tribulation fell to him not long ago, so he cannot be underestimated. Around them, various teams whispered among themselves as they observed the figure. Mu Chen caught wind of their murmurs and glanced at Xiao King with an indifferent expression. "Fear you'll lack the standing to make such bold claims," a cold voice rang out. Luoli, her beautiful eyes icy, was staring at Xiao King. She slowly tightened her grip on the Luo god sword, stepping forward as the sword hummed, unleashing a sword intent so piercing it seemed ready to tear the heavens apart. The presence of that intent caused the expressions of countless teams around them to shift dramatically. The faces of Xiao Huang and Xiao King also shifted slightly, as they sensed the danger emanating from her. This girl seemed even more troublesome than Mu Chen. It was clear that this team from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy indeed possessed some impressive capabilities. Xiao Huang narrowed his eyes slightly, then smiled and said, "Captain Mu Chen, I've heard you are a spiritual array master. I wonder if you're interested in making a bet with me? Let's hear it." Ordinary conflicts tend to be a bit crude. Right now, Wen Qingxian and the others are trapped in this binding heaven array. If you can break the array and free them, I will not only release them afterward, but will also compensate you with 20,000 points. Xiao Huang fixed his gaze on Mu Chen, a playful smirk on his lips. "Of course, if you lose, you'll need to hand that item over to me. What do you say?" Many of the teams around them raised their eyebrows upon hearing this. Xiao Huang's strategy was quite clever. Now that even when Qingxian was trapped by this spiritual array, if Mu Chen were to enter, wouldn't the outcome be the same? And once Mu Chen fell into the array, whether he was crushed or squeezed would be at Xiao Huang's discretion, wouldn't it? However, the fact that Xiao Huang could immediately offer 20,000 points showed just how wealthy he was. After all, 20,000 points would be enough to push him into the top 6, though this might very well be the total score of the Alliance of Academies. All eyes in this realm turned towards Mu Chen. They were all curious to see if Mu Chen would truly dare to accept the challenge proposed by Xiao Huang. Under the gaze of so many, Mu Chen slightly pursed his lips, and soon a smile appeared on his handsome face. He looked playfully at Xiao Huang and then nodded slowly. "All right, I accept this bet." When Mu Chen's voice slowly spread across the vast area, it unexpectedly caused quite a stir. Many faces showed shock, while some eyes, with varying expressions, fixed on the slender figure of the young man. After a while, someone couldn't help but click their tongue and murmur, "Looks like there's a good show to watch today." The teams that made it here had all passed through numerous challenges, so they were naturally not without strategy. Xiao Huang had clearly set up a trap here, pushing Mu Chen to take the risk. As long as Mu Chen wasn't a fool, he would be fully aware of this. Yet, despite this, he still accepted the challenge without much hesitation. This could mean two things. Either Mu Chen was arrogantly foolish, or he had a hidden trump card. The first reason could be ruled out. Mu Chen had become the captain of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy team, which meant he could not possibly be an arrogant person. The higher-ups of the academy would never have made such a foolish decision. So, the real reason Mu Chen dared to accept was probably that he wasn't afraid of Xiao Huang. This young man, who appeared to only be at the spiritual energy tribulation stage, didn't seem as simple as he appeared. What an idiot! From a distant mountain peak, Wu Yingying clenched her silver teeth as she saw Mu Chen accept the challenge. Though she had some understanding of Mu Chen, given the current situation, once he stepped into that spiritual array, he would likely fall under Xiao Huang's control. After all, even when Qing Xian had been trapped, how much better could Mu Chen fare? "Don't worry so soon," Wu Ling said with a faint smile. He looked at the slender figure of the young man in the distance and said, "I've fought with him before. I know him well. No matter what he plans to do, once he moves, it means he has his own strategy. Xiao Huang's plan may be thorough, but it won't be so easy to capture Mu Chen. Is he really that strong?" Wu Yingying pouted. She knew how high her older brother's standards were. Among their peers, very few had earned his recognition, even those geniuses in their own academy who were praised by the elders. Yet, he still didn't think highly of them. "Heh, you know exactly how Mu Chen is. You just don't want to admit it," Wu Ling smiled. He then glanced at Wu Yingying, his eyes narrowing slightly, and asked, "But why do you seem to hold such a grudge against him? Did he do something to you?" Wu Yingying's face flushed red, and she quickly answered with guilt, "What? Don't say nonsense." Wu Ling shrugged and said, "Though I think highly of him, if he dares to bully my sister, just tell me, and I'll take care of him. Who needs your help?" Wu Yingying glared at her brother, then fell silent, her gaze still fixed on the slender figure in the distance. Her silver teeth clenched lightly. What a pervert! As the two siblings spoke, on the spiritual light-filled mountain peak, Xiao Huang heard Mu Chen's acceptance and couldn't help but show a faint smile on his face. He smiled and praised, "Captain Mu Chen truly has courage. Xiao Huang admires you." Mu Chen glanced at him, and also smiled lightly. "Since Captain Xiao Huang has offered such a great gift, how could I refuse?" "Then it all depends on Captain Mu Chen's abilities," Xiao Huang laughed. Words alone probably won't break this array. Although both of them were smiling, the competitive tension between them was unmistakable. Mu Chen nodded slightly, then turned his head to look at Luo Li. Mu Chen smiled faintly, not saying much more. His figure shifted, and in an instant, he transformed into a streak of light, shooting across Lin Hai towards the massive spiritual array atop the mountain. As he neared the summit, Mu Chen could feel the vast fluctuations of spiritual energy emanating from the array. His eyes slightly narrowed. This array seemed even more powerful than the thousand-sword spirit array in his possession. He wondered where Xiao Huang had obtained the array diagram from. Whoosh! Thoughts swirling in his mind, Mu Chen didn't hesitate. With a single step, he rushed directly into the massive spiritual array before the eyes of all present. As Mu Chen entered the array, the world around him was immediately shrouded in mist. The mist, formed by condensed spiritual energy, couldn't be blown away and severely interfered with his perception, making it impossible to discern direction. Mu Chen halted his steps. As a spiritual array master, He understood that the most critical thing when trapped in an array was not to act recklessly. Maintaining composure was the only way to find a chance to break the array. This array didn't seem to be an offensive one. It felt more like a trapping array. A trapping array focused on containment. However, that didn't mean it was easier to deal with. In fact, it was even more troublesome. Once trapped, escaping would consume immense amounts of energy. If the spiritual energy was exhausted without breaking the array, one would simply be at the mercy of the array. Outside the array, everyone saw Mu Chen standing motionless within the shimmering light array, which left many puzzled. However, while others were confused, Xiao Huang raised his brows. It seemed that Mu Chen was indeed quite skilled with spiritual arrays, but Xiao Huang was not worried. He had supreme confidence in his own array mastery and didn't believe that Mu Chen could surpass him. Mu Chen, this array is called the Binding Heaven Array. It's not an array focused on attack, but once someone is trapped inside, they will be stuck, as if sinking into a swamp, unable to escape until their spiritual energy is drained. If you find it impossible to break, just say the word and hand over the item to me. I'll let you all out, Xiao Huang said, his voice echoing through the air and into the array, lingering in Mu Chen's ears. Mu Chen ignored him. He simply looked up at the dazzling array. After entering, he could feel his body growing heavier, as though a mountain were pressing down on him. He could also sense his spiritual energy rapidly depleting. Binding Heaven Array. Such bold words, Mu Chen muttered to himself. He then took a step forward, walking deeper into the array. Outside, all eyes were fixed on Mu Chen's figure. Xiao Huang smiled faintly. The deeper Mu Chen ventured into the array, the stronger the binding force would become, and the faster his spiritual energy would drain. Moreover, the array Xiao Huang had set up was far from as simple as Mu Chen might have imagined. Trying to break the array? I'm afraid you're too naive, Xiao Huang muttered, his gaze fixed on Mu Chen's advancing steps, a chilling smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Under the scrutiny of many eyes, Mu Chen walked for nearly a few hundred steps before suddenly halting. He surveyed the complex array of shimmering light patterns around him. His eyes narrowed slightly. With his expertise in spiritual arrays, he sensed that the array's patterns seemed somewhat different. Xiao Huang's gaze never left Mu Chen, and upon seeing him stop, his eyes narrowed ever so slightly. Mu Chen focused on the glimmering array patterns around him. His gaze flickered, then suddenly, he sat down cross-legged. His eyes slowly closed, and his mind began to quiet. Any external noise was now blocked from his awareness. Deep within his mind, it felt as though a mysterious eye had quietly opened. That was his heart eye. With his heart eye activated, Mu Chen had not opened his physical eyes, but the surrounding environment was imprinted in his mind, clearer than ever. The pervasive spiritual mist was fully pierced through, and the complex array patterns were absorbed into his consciousness. Under the activation of his heart eye, Mu Chen finally noticed something was off. It turned out that ahead of him, 2 more attack spirit arrays were hidden. These arrays were not as powerful as the Binding Heaven Array, but if caught off guard, they could certainly deal a heavy blow. Xiao Huang was truly cunning, hiding spirit arrays within a spirit array. An array within an array? Mu Chen sneered inwardly. His eyes opened wide, and he rose to his feet, stepping forward. Xiao Huang's expression had initially darkened when Mu Chen suddenly halted, but when he saw Mu Chen take another step, a cold glint of triumph flashed in his eyes. Boom! Within the spirit array, a flicker of spiritual light flashed, and from the misty spiritual fog, 2 spirit arrays slowly emerged. The arrays were hidden in the mist, and Mu Chen, who was within them, couldn't perceive them. However, the onlookers could clearly see everything. Their expressions changed as they realized just how devious and ruthless Xiao Huang's hidden move was. Of course, to set up such a spirit array within an array required immense control, and Xiao Huang's mastery over spirit arrays left many in awe. Boom! Just as the onlookers' faces shifted in surprise, the hidden spirit arrays revealed their ominous power. The spiritual energy fluctuations gathered, and in the next instant, 2 terrifying attacks capable of severely injuring Mu Chen were about to erupt. Whoosh! However, just as the two hidden spirit arrays were about to activate, two spiritual energy lashes shot out, moving as fast as lightning, and crashed into the arrays at their weakest points. Boom! The arrays instantly froze, and cracks quickly spread across them, finally exploding with a violent force. The spiritual energy storm swept through, dispersing much of the mist. Wow! Outside the spirit arrays, gasps of shock erupted. Even Xiao Huang, who had been smirking, now wore a stiff expression. Their eyes turned toward the spirit arrays, where Mu Chen stood, his fingers extended, the spiritual light flickering at his fingertips. Clearly, the spiritual energy lashes had come from him. Impressive, he saw through Xiao Huang's plan. Many were shaken. Xiao Huang's hidden and ruthless move. If they had been the ones trapped in it, they felt certain they wouldn't have escaped. But Mu Chen had struck decisively at the crucial moment, shattering the spirit arrays and destroying them in an instant. The perception and skill he displayed left them in awe. At this moment, both Mu Chen and Xiao Huang were scheming against each other. But clearly, Mu Chen had the upper hand. Among the countless astonished gazes, Mu Chen slowly looked up. He glanced toward Xiao Huang's position outside the arrays and smiled faintly. Your array within an array still lacks some refinement. Hearing this, Xiao Huang's expression turned dark and menacing. You're too early to gloat, he sneered coldly. Wait until you can truly break my binding heaven array, then talk. Mu Chen smiled again but didn't say more. He knew that the spirit arrays he had just shattered were merely Xiao Huang's hidden trump card. The real challenge now was the binding heaven array. If he couldn't break this array, he would remain trapped. Once his spiritual energy was depleted, he would become easy prey for Xiao Huang. Mu Chen raised his head, his gaze fixed on the massive array before him. The glowing runes were so intricate that even he felt dizzy trying to decipher them. The patterns were elusive, and the binding heaven array was exceedingly complex. Normally, the most important part of any spirit array was its core, but when Mu Chen had used his hard eye to probe, he hadn't been able to locate the core. For arrays of this level, if one couldn't destroy the core, brute force wouldn't work. Mu Chen's gaze flickered slightly, and then his eyes suddenly brightened, with a radiant glow gathering. His black eyes seemed to shine at that moment, sparkling with crystal light. His gaze slowly swept across, as if it could pierce through the fog of the world. Hard eye. At this moment, Xiao Huang also noticed the crystal light flickering in Mu Chen's eyes. His heart trembled involuntarily, and his expression grew even darker. He now understood why Mu Chen had been able to so keenly detect the hidden attacking spirit array earlier. It turned out that this guy had comprehended the hard eye state. As a spiritual array master, Xiao Huang naturally understood the power of the hard eye state. He had once touched upon it himself, but could never fully control it. Now, seeing that Mu Chen had not only comprehended it, but could control it, a trace of jealousy flickered in his eyes. Want to probe the central core of the spirit array and destroy it? Xiao Huang's gaze grew cold. With a sneer, his seal technique suddenly shifted. Buzz. With Xiao Huang's change in seal technique, dazzling spiritual light suddenly erupted from the spirit array. Then, everyone saw the spiritual energy within the vast array become somewhat thicker and more viscous. The thick spiritual energy then rushed downward at high speed, swirling around Mu Chen's body like a storm. The viscous spiritual energy spun rapidly, not only interfering with Mu Chen's use of the heart eye to probe, but he also noticed with some surprise that the spiritual energy within him seemed to be attracted. It showed signs of dispersing from his body. Clearly, Xiao Huang had fully activated this binding heaven array. Since you want to challenge me with the array, then today I'll accompany you to the end. Xiao Huang's cold, indifferent voice rang out, locking onto Mu Chen's figure. Boom, boom. The massive spirit array flashed with dazzling light. The complex array runes squirmed like snakes, weaving intricate paths, and the sudden surge of terrifying energy fluctuations caused the expressions of many powerful teams in the area to change. If they were caught in this level of spirit array, they would likely never escape. Mu Chen gazed at the fully activated spirit array, taking a deep breath. His eyes glowed brighter and deeper, the array runes reflecting in his pupils, bringing forth a mysterious glow. He allowed the strong suction force to pull the spiritual energy from his body. Outside the array, everyone could see the continuous flow of spiritual energy pouring out from Mu Chen's body. Once released, the energy would be absorbed by the array, causing its light to grow even more intense, and the spiritual energy fluctuations to become more powerful. Seeing this, Su Huang and the others exchanged worried glances. Mu Chen's spiritual energy was draining too quickly. At this rate, he likely wouldn't be able to last much longer. They glanced at Luo Li, whose face remained calm, but when they saw her delicate hand tightly gripping the Luo God sword, they understood that she was also somewhat concerned. After all, Xiao Huang was no ordinary opponent. This person had the ability to make them all take him seriously. Under the intense scrutiny of everyone's gaze, Mu Chen remained completely still. His hands hung at his sides, concealed within his sleeves. His deep, crystal-glowing eyes continued to sweep across the spirit array. He could feel that within the array, the spiritual energy fluctuations were densest in two areas. One was where he was, and the other was deeper inside. There, the spiritual mist was so thick it was almost viscous, completely obscuring everyone's line of sight. Clearly, this was where Wen Qingxian and the others were trapped. The central core of this spirit array. Was it intentionally concealed? Mu Chen's probing still yielded little effect, causing him to narrow his eyes slightly. Xiao Huang was indeed experienced, even knowing how to hide the core of the array with special methods. This meant that even he would find it difficult to locate the central core of the array for a while. Mu Chen's gaze flashed, and then his hand, which had been concealed in his sleeve, suddenly shot out. With a flick of his finger, spiritual seals shot out, quickly merging into the air around him. The air shimmered, and a light array roughly 10 meters in size appeared around him. As the light array manifested, the air around Mu Chen grew blurry, and his body slowly disappeared into the hazy glow. Xiao Huang's eyes suddenly sharpened when he saw this scene. Mu Chen had actually set up a spiritual array within his own, but the array's level was not high, so its power wasn't strong. However, this spiritual array seemed to have some protective effect. Not only did it conceal Mu Chen's figure, but it also slowed down the speed at which the binding heaven array absorbed his spiritual energy. You think this will help you hold on a little longer? Foolish dream. My binding heaven array is a level 5 combined spiritual array. Xiao Huang sneered, his lips curling into a mocking smile. He waved his sleeve, and immediately, the vast spiritual energy within the enormous array began to surge. The spiritual power gathered frantically, transforming into several giant spiritual serpents. These serpents circled the perimeter of Mu Chen's array, then opened their huge jaws, unleashing a powerful suction that devoured the spiritual energy inside Mu Chen's array like a whale sucking water. As these serpents consumed the energy, the protective array around Mu Chen began to shake violently and show signs of collapsing. Clearly, the hastily set up array by Mu Chen could not withstand the power of Xiao Huang's binding heaven array for long. Eyes were fixed on the movements within the enormous array. Su Huang and the others had tense expressions, and from a distance, Wu Yingying's beautiful eyes showed concern as she gripped her jade-like hands tightly. Boom, boom. The protective array around Mu Chen grew weaker and weaker, clearly reaching its limit. Xiao Huang's smile turned colder and more chilling. That's enough, Xiao Huang said coldly with a faint smile, his hand suddenly tightening into a fist. Boom. The spiritual energy within the array was completely absorbed, and without the support of energy, the array immediately shattered. The light that had been radiating from it quickly dimmed, and the slender figure within became visible again under everyone's gaze. The young man still stood there quietly, his clothes fluttering in the wind, his handsome face exceptionally calm. Only his eyes shimmered with a crystal-clear light, mysterious and deep. How long do you think you can still resist? Xiao Huang stared at the exposed Mu Chen, a smile curling on his lips, his voice tinged with mockery. Mu Chen slowly lifted his head at this moment, looking at Xiao Huang. A slight curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. Seeing his expression, Xiao Huang felt an inexplicable sinking sensation in his heart, a sense of unease rising from within. Since you want to see it, I'll use a spiritual array to break your array, Mu Chen said with a faint smile. He then flicked his sleeve, and a surge of overwhelming spiritual light burst out from it. From within that light, countless spiritual seals flew out like butterflies, their number so vast that many people were left staring in shock. Buzz, buzz. The enormous number of spiritual seals swept outward, quickly merging with the air around Mu Chen. In an instant, an astonishing wave of spiritual energy spread out, even pushing back the giant spiritual serpents. The dazzling array runes intertwined like snakes, filling the space around Mu Chen for several hundred feet with spiritual light. Amidst this light, everyone saw a massive spiritual array emerge in front of Mu Chen. Within the array, two gigantic black lotuses slowly spun, emitting an overwhelming aura. It was the demonic lotus slaughter array. A mere thing that doesn't even qualify as a level 5 spiritual array wants to break my array? Xiao Huang sneered coldly when he saw the black lotus array. If one won't work, then I'll try again. Mu Chen smiled faintly, and as his voice dropped, to everyone's amazement, another identical black lotus array appeared, this time from Mu Chen's right side. He actually set up 2 spiritual arrays in such a short time. Someone exclaimed. They knew full well that a spiritual array master needed time to set up an array. However, Mu Chen had only prepared for a brief moment, and his speed was truly astonishing. Xiao Huang's expression darkened slightly. Mu Chen looked at Xiao Huang again, smiled, and said softly, "This isn't over yet." He extended his slender finger and pointed into the air again. Spiritual light surged from behind him, and yet another black lotus array appeared, shocking everyone who witnessed it. 3 demonic lotus slaughter arrays. 3 demonic lotus slaughter arrays flickered with dazzling brilliance, floating around Mu Chen. The spiritual energy waves, which spread outward like a tidal wave, even forced the surrounding viscous spiritual mist to dissipate significantly. At this moment, Mu Chen seemed to have carved out his own territory within the spiritual array, using it to resist the binding heaven array. Outside the array, countless gazes were fixed on the scene, their eyes filled with astonishment. No one had expected Mu Chen to be able to instantly set up 3 formidable arrays with such incredible speed. Xiao Huang's gaze turned dark as he stared at Mu Chen, who was shielded by the 3 demonic lotus slaughter arrays. After a moment, he sneered coldly and said, "You think that just by setting up 3 arrays, you can contend with my binding heaven array? Do you really believe the gap between spiritual array levels can be bridged by mere numbers?" Although Mu Chen's move had caught Xiao Huang by surprise, it didn't make him panic. After all, he could sense that, while the 3 demonic lotus slaughter arrays were powerful, they were far from reaching the level of a grade 5 array. If Mu Chen thought he could break his grade 5 composite spirit array with this, it would be wishful thinking. Who knows unless we try? Mu Chen smiled faintly, and a sharp glint quickly gathered in his black eyes. Is that so? Xiao Huang's eyes narrowed as he changed his seal. Instantly, the vast spiritual array shimmered with light, and great spiritual energy snakes began to rapidly condense and emerge. There were almost 10 times as many as before. These spiritual energy serpents opened their massive mouths and once again began devouring the power of the 3 demonic lotus slaughter arrays Mu Chen had set up. Clearly, he planned to devour the spiritual energy of the arrays just as before, causing them to lose their energy support. Without that, even the most powerful array would dissipate. Mu Chen, seeing this, stretched out his long fingers and lightly tapped in the air. Boom! At that moment, the 3 demonic lotus slaughter arrays activated. As the black lotus turned, a violent and astonishing spiritual energy fluctuation swept outward. Go! Mu Chen suddenly called out, and in the next instant, the black lotuses from the 3 demonic lotus slaughter arrays shot out as black beams of light. They didn't attack in one direction but split, heading in 3 different ways. Although the spiritual light in these directions was dazzling, Mu Chen, relying on his hard eye, could discern that beneath the brilliance, there was an illusionary nature. Clearly, Xiao Huang had intentionally concealed something. If Mu Chen wasn't mistaken, those 3 points might be the core of the binding heaven array. but there could only be one core in an array. The appearance of 3 points was obviously Xiao Huang's deliberate attempt to confuse others into misinterpreting the array's true center. It was a clever use of illusion to confuse the mind. However, what Xiao Huang didn't expect was that Mu Chen had already detected all 3 suspected core points. While Mu Chen couldn't distinguish which one was the real core, it didn't matter. He would attack all of them. Seeing Mu Chen's counterattack, Xiao Huang's expression changed. A trace of shock flickered in his eyes. This Mu Chen was indeed troublesome. He had even found the spiritual array's core, which Xiao Huang had hidden with great effort. The Heart-Eye state was truly formidable. But breaking my core is not as easy as you think. Xiao Huang's face darkened. He waved his sleeve, and instantly, the spiritual energy serpents shot out, their speed like lightning as they collided with the black lotus beams. Boom, boom. A violent spiritual energy shockwave swept outward. Facing the collision with the spiritual energy serpents, the 3 black lotus beams slowed down, and their spiritual energy was quickly being eroded. Though the twin lotus form of the demonic lotus slaughter array was formidable, it was still no match for the grade 5 composite spirit array, the binding heaven array. Explode! Mu Chen calmly watched as the black lotuses struggled to advance. His eyes flashed, and his hands suddenly clenched. Boom! With his command, tiny cracks appeared on the 6 black lotuses, and they rapidly spread, growing more numerous until they finally reached their limit. In a burst of dazzling light, they exploded. Bang! Bang! Xiao Huang's gaze grew increasingly gloomy, with anger rising in his eyes. This guy really thinks that his binding heaven array is so easy to deal with? Break for me! Mu Chen's relentless assault was starting to push Xiao Huang to the edge. If Mu Chen really destroyed the core, the spiritual array would suffer heavy damage, and it might even collapse entirely. Therefore, Xiao Huang could no longer maintain his calm. Xiao Huang's seal technique rapidly shifted. One by one, massive spiritual energy pythons suddenly gathered, connecting end to end, forming 3 giant snake coils. Spiritual light spread out, and immense pressure began to radiate from them. Boom! The explosion of the black lotus, carrying a terrifying shockwave, slammed fiercely into the massive snake coils. The spiritual energy storm swept across, wreaking havoc and causing the entire mountain peak to tremble slightly. The 2 sides clashed with ferocious power. Mu Chen's handsome face also turned serious. Black and white spiritual energy surged from his body like a tidal wave, ultimately crashing toward the point of impact, attempting to break through the massive snake coils that were blocking him. Humph! Xiao Huang stood up at this moment. His expression was cold, his gaze flashing with murderous intent as he stared at Mu Chen's figure. With a thought, an earth-shaking roar erupted from the binding heaven array. The thick spiritual mist that filled the entire array surged in an overwhelming flood toward Mu Chen's position. He was going to unleash the full power of the binding heaven array and crush Mu Chen. Bang! Bang! As the full force of the binding heaven array surged toward Mu Chen, everyone could see that the Black Lotus attack was no longer making progress. In fact, under the overwhelming spiritual energy, it was being pushed back step by step. Some people sighed regretfully. Even though Mu Chen had set up 3 powerful spiritual arrays, it seemed impossible for him to counter Xiao Huang's binding heaven array. Su Huang and the others looked serious, their eyes filled with tension and worry. Luo Li, with her beautiful eyes, also watched the battle within the array. Her gaze flickered slightly. Mu Chen is about to give in, Wu Yingying remarked, biting her red lip. Wu Ling squinted slightly, staring at the spiritual array, remaining silent for a moment before slowly shaking his head, yet he did not speak. Boom! The Black Lotus attack was finally completely crushed by the surging spiritual energy and exploded. Mu Chen's body trembled violently, taking several steps back as his spiritual energy showed signs of disturbance. With this little skill, you think you can challenge my binding heaven array? It seems you're being a bit too naive, Xiao Huang sneered, a trace of self-satisfaction rising in his heart. Is that so? Mu Chen, upon hearing this, raised his head and smiled, his grin somewhat strange. Buzz. As Mu Chen's smile appeared, a brilliant light suddenly exploded in the area. Then, everyone saw several spiritual arrays, each about 10 or so feet in size, materialize out of thin air. These arrays weren't very powerful but were numerous. They quickly spread out, surrounding the overwhelming spiritual energy from the binding heaven array, like small prison cells trapping the power. In just a few moments, the spiritual mist within the array quickly began to dissipate, and the numerous small spiritual arrays had actually imprisoned the spiritual energy inside the binding heaven array. Great move! The countless spectators, watching this spectacular array battle, all had their eyes light up, unable to suppress their exclamations of awe. The three seemingly powerful demonic lotus spiritual arrays from earlier seemed to have been a decoy. Chen had intentionally lured Xiao Huang to activate the binding heaven array's spiritual energy to attack him. However, he had secretly set up these smaller spiritual arrays in advance. These arrays weren't particularly strong, and if used for attacking, they might not even cause much harm. But Chen didn't use them as enemies. Instead, he cleverly turned them into prison cells, and the target of the prison cells was the spiritual energy itself. Xiao Huang's expression was somewhat shocked as he stared at this scene, even horror flashing in his eyes. However, he quickly regained his composure, gritting his teeth and coldly saying, "You think you can dissolve and neutralize my array's spiritual energy like this?" With a sweep of his sleeve, the spiritual energy that had been trapped instantly became violent, crashing wildly into the small spiritual arrays. Under the furious assault of the spiritual energy, the arrays rapidly began to tremble, clearly unable to hold out much longer. Heh. However, Chen did not stop this sight, but instead gave a light smile. He fixed his gaze on Xiao Huang and said, "I didn't expect to break your array so easily, but perhaps you've been neglecting something." As he spoke, Chen extended his finger and gently tapped the depths of the spiritual array. Xiao Huang seemed to suddenly remember something, his face instantly changing dramatically. He hurriedly turned his head, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. For deep within the spiritual array, the dense spiritual mist that had once filled the area was now thinning. As the mist grew sparse, a beautiful girl dressed in golden armor, holding a golden spear, with her blue-black hair cascading down, began to gradually become clearer. At that moment, the girl's breathtaking face was covered with an unsettling, chilling cold.